Hello everybody and welcome back to the multi-part series that is how to play 1v1 maps in Steel Division. And in this video, we're updating a little bit. I have the blue versus red now. It'll make it easier for you to see what I'm talking about when pointing out which side of the map can do what. And we're going to change the format up a little bit, just thanks to some criticism that I saw from the last video. We'll be focusing strictly on the red side first, and then we'll be looking at the blue side. So with that said, let's get into it. So with this map, Orsha East, I'm not a huge fan of this map. There's some key issues with the map I don't necessarily like, but there can be some good things with it. So we'll start from the left side on red. Now, the engagement in this forest can be absolutely crucial. Main reason being is if you lose one of these two flags, it opens these flags up to attack if you're on the red side. One major reason I don't like this map, because if you look at it from the blue side, you will never be getting to these flags since they're so close to the spawn. Here, your spawn point's really far away compared to the blue one. So coming around this bend and pushing up to this forest, it's a lot harder to get to these flags here than it is these flags. And this flag right here, don't even think about taking it. You'll never get it. So let's look at the lines of sight. When we're looking down here, this forest is a really good defensible position to take up if you lose this part of the map. Main reason being, you can get AT guns that look down the stretch of the road. You can just be really picky with where you put those AT guns here. Mainly, this is the best part to stop units from coming down the road here. Now, when you're deploying into the forest here, fighting on this road will be immense, because the main reason is the only real way that your tanks can get into the forest unless you go through this tree line. So it's two really big bottlenecks for armored vehicles to get into the forest. So a lot of the times what you'll see is people rush anti-tank rifles up to the choke point here and just shoot transports that come in from the respective sides. So that's something you need to take into account when you're trying to take this forest. What I personally do a lot of the time is have my guys come off the road here and try to just drive through the field and deploy on the tree line here instead of going through this open area. What I do to deal with the open area is I'll stick a beefy tank like a Sherman for close quarters combat, or an anti-tank gun back here just to keep whatever's in there back. So at that point, there's no real crazy lines of sight here, anything that you could really just pick up on your own. You can think, oh, well, I can see down this road. Let's find something that has the best line of sight. But one key part about winning this forest fight is if you win this forest fight, obviously you look out into the field, but while the fight's going on, if you flank up on the sill, you get some good lines of sight into the forest here. And if you just sit a tank right here and you defend it with some infantry, you can cut off enemy reinforcements into the wood line right here. So think back to part 1 of this series where we talked about how Steel Division is played. If you can cut off the lines of supply and the roads to where you were fighting, you're going to win the battle more often than not. Now, you take this forest here, you can start to snowball if you want to focus on this side of the map. So you take this forest here, you start lining up AT guns and IGs in the tree line here, and you can cut off their approach here in the field and their tree line, giving you access to flank through this field and to try to cut off their reinforcements. Now, do I recommend doing that more often? No, it takes a lot of resources to do it. I recommend that, yeah, you do put something in here just to cover the field, but don't focus on trying to flank so much through here because it's a mad dash through, what is that, about 500 meters of just open ground with zero cover. I wouldn't do that personally, unless you're just getting really risky with tanks. You want to say, hey, I'm probing to see what's there. So really no crazy lines of sight here. You maybe see it right there on the right side of the screen. It's not that great of a line of sight, but it's all pretty box standard here. If you put something in here, you're going to cover these buildings with it. Vice versa, you put something over here, you'll cover these buildings with it. It's pretty mirrored, pretty symmetrical. So pushing into the more middle side of the map, you have two options to deploy to the middle. This road and this road. Personally, I take this road right here, the more paved one, not the dirt one. I think it's quicker. I like having my units just line up down this way. They don't have to make that turn. Units taking turns in this game can get a little janky. But one big issue with this side of the map, if you're fighting over it, is just look at the middle real quick, and what do you see the issue is? You do not have a lot of territory to hold. Not at all. You have this little area of the town, and you can get boxed in pretty quickly. That's why this side of the map is so important to take, because if you lose the middle here and you lose the tree line here, your flags here and here are gonna get attacked really fast, and it's super hard to take them back when they can roll up into this light tree line here and this green forest and this light tree line here and just completely cut off your lines of reinforcements. So you need to keep that in mind. You cannot lose this hill in the middle. The hill in the middle is crucial to winning on this map. Now, what's the lines of sights that can help you? Well, the church tower is pretty obvious. Get a recon guy in here. He might be able to spot some things for you, but since it's directly on the front line, he's probably going to die. He probably might not even make it in there. Putting an anti-tank rifle or sniper rifle in this building is great. You see down the road, you can snipe at transports that are coming in. It's a little risky though. There's going to be an SPW or a T-34 that'll immediately start returning fire. But maybe you'll get a transport, harass some infantry. Also good for anti-tank rifles. Those transports coming to assault your flag right here will immediately start getting popped by that AT rifle. So this is a really good option. If you know you're playing this map, you might want to consider bringing out a PTRS if you're the Soviets to do this, or a sniper if you're the Germans, since you're not spoiled for choice with anti-tank rifles. Now, when we're looking at the left side of the town right here, it's not as important as this side of the town, because if you lose this flag, you lose your anchor. The reason I say that this part of the town is more important than the left side is mainly because of this. When you really look at the lines of sight here, they're not too great. You can kind of cover the mouth right here until you start really coming in to the contact line here where blue and red meet. Now, this is a great line of sight if you have a sniper. You can snipe guys in the buildings all around here. This one's okay at taking out the guys in the first two buildings and this one right behind it. But if you get set up in here or here, you're kind of susceptible to tanks coming around here and here to shoot into here. So here, usually I'll put like a Tanko Desaniki, a Strelki, Machiki, whatever have you I feel is going to be better just to be situated there, just to hold it and say, hey, I have dudes here, back off. Now, this line of sight here is great just to shoot into the town here, but you're susceptible to tank fire from here. This one's a little bit better, but you're susceptible to fire from here. So tactically, this position really sucks. That's why you're going to have to really rely on these tree lines here and taking this town to compromise their flank here and try to funnel them down the middle here. So, what have we learned so far on this map? The left is key and holding the middle is key. But holding the tactical position here on the middle isn't that easy. It's pretty hard. So what I recommend you do on this side of the map from the Reds' perspective is anchor this tree line, anchor this light forest here, and here, this is a real, if you're using this green tree line, you're playing a little defensive, which is fine on this map. That's perfectly fine. But just know, you'll be sitting it back a little bit, you'll be a little defensive, and sometimes you'll need to play it that way. But if you want to be more aggressive and you want to push the initiative, you want to push this side of the hill and prioritize it with your main assault. Reason being, if you take this town here, that gives you great lines of fire into those tree lines with any machine gun that your squad can have. Any sniper rifle will get them, any support machine gun will reach those tree lines, and you can also bring tanks up in here to threaten the light forest and the opening gap right here where tanks could come through. AT guns can cover this opening here. Any dudes with like bazookas or Panzerschrecks can cover this opening. If you got guys that have good machine guns and good close quarter fighting abilities and smoke, you can charge this tree line if they're setting up in it. So taking here, you force your opponent to close in with you. You don't give them the ability to snipe your units from down the road or through the tree line. You try to negate that advantage that they have tactically on this map. They have better lines of sight with their buildings here, because if you look at it real quick, you got lines of sight to this building in the mouth of the town. You have lines of sight off to the flanking side. You have lines of sight to here, more lines of sight over here, just direct full-on lines of sight. So these lines of sight and all these buildings really cover a multitude of angles, along with this line of sight here and the adjacent town. So as you can see, like lines of sight like right here will just completely ruin whatever you have. As goes the same for here. You get a guy in here, you can really cut off the road here. So that's why you have to be really, really careful on the red side and focus on taking this part of the town. But what's the key lines of sight for taking this part of the town? Well, right here's really good for putting a machine gun, sniper rifle, IG. It just helps to anchor you down and say, hey, I got fire support behind me, back off. Use this green tree, this green forest right here to cover your advance into the town. You look at the line of sight right here, you can really get in close to these buildings without being noticed. This is the main building complex, these two that you have to worry about. So if you want to focus your push in through here, you only really have to worry about these ones here. But generally right here is the best way to infiltrate, unless you have a half track and you just roll right on up here with tank supporting you back here. That's a good way to do it too. Now, You also have more lines of sight here that can cover these light tree lines and stuff like that. And this light tree line right here, if you're able to take it, has a really good line of sight on the enemy's approach right here. Now, you're going to have a hard time cutting off this road juncture right here, but if you can defend this part right here, you can get little bits of the road line here if you check that on the line of sight tool, if you get in the right spot. So this can be a very commanding position. This tactically is more in your favor than your opponent just because you have more ability, since this is a really good road right here that's covered by a green forest, to support your push on this side of the hill. But it's also very easy for your opponent to resupply the hill here because you have a good road juncture running up to here, so they can easily dump units into thick, dense forest while your forests are a little more thin. Just something to take into account. Be very aware of what your opponent's doing over here, because taking this town is key. No crazy lines of sight here like on Orsha North with that farmstead, just being aware of your tactical surroundings. Now, moving more towards the right side of the map, you got a good line of sight right here covering the main road down into the farmstead, and you also have some very dense, lush green forests here that can cut off the enemy road coming into the town there. It's a good spot to put an AT gun, better than an IG, just mainly because the AT gun shoots quicker if it's a lighter AT gun, like we talked about with the 45mm AT gun, or even the Pack 38 or Pack 40 if you're doing cycling and you're being micro efficient with your guys. It's a good line of sight there. Right here, you also have a good line of sight that if you want to put an IG gun there and hit that farmstead back there, if they have a machine gun or something like that, if you're pushing your opponent, it's a good spot right here too. Always a good spot right here to put a tank to cover that line of approach from your opponent. Just be careful of AT guns. Your opponent might see that as a big threat, which is a good thing to point out. Just don't let a tank sit here and cut off your reinforcements, so they'll easily get good penetration chances on your tank since you're so close. You're about within 700 meters of the tank. Any AT gun will really harass any medium tank from that range, even a heavy tank for the most part. So be aware of that. Now, when we start looking more to the lines of sight here, they're good. You cut off the road here, you help cover the tree line here. Same goes for here. You got a good little cover of the tree line. Your right flank's protected. Now, as for the farmstead itself, it's not great for you. This one right here, this farmhouse, is really susceptible to fire from this green tree line right, or this yellow tree line right here. But it also helps that it helps shield your left flank when you're in this middle building here. But you also can get shot at from the hill and the road right here. This is really good. This building, if you're winning the fight and you have a forward position, throw an MG in there. You can cut off the road with it. If it's a 1500 meter range MG, it's an MG42, MG34, 50 cal of some kind. Good spot to throw that down. Here's a good spot to either put a sniper, which is a normal squad. You can help cut off any AT guns or anything approaching from this tree line here. So that's really the only lines of sight you need to worry about from the hill here. You have good lines of sight here that more cover the town here, but you have to be more aware of your left flank here where the 1000 meter mark is. You can get hit by AT guns here. Just the give and take of the tactical situation here. That's why taking this tree line up here in this town is so key, because you need to leverage this geographical position, this hill, to your best ability. Because if you kind of look at it here, we look at it from a more neutral perspective, this line of reinforcement is extraordinarily open and not very covered, kind of like you have here in the middle. Now your opponent, then if you're in the red perspective here respectively, the blue, their line of approach isn't as open. It's a lot shorter. You have more geographical ability, you have more ability with the geography to come in this way, come up the road. It's a quick little dash to get in here. You can just sit a tank down right here, cover the green trees. You have more trees here to try to infiltrate into, which cuts line of sight, unlike right here, we have a really good line of sight just sitting in the open or in the light forest, allowing you to put tanks there. So this really limits what you can do to their spawn point to AT guns and infantry. And when you're pushing that far forward and being that aggressive, you normally won't be able to keep an AT gun in there safely. So you'll really be forced to kind of either put your tank here, which is like the, oh, wonder where the tank is, it's going to be there, or put them at the mouth of the town, which is like the, oh, wonder where the tank's going to be, it's going to be right there, which allows you to use your road right here to sneak infantry and counterattack through the forest. So the point is, what I'm going at with that is, like this part of the map, it's very open. Your opponent's side isn't very open, but they kind of off-match each other. This is very open to attack if you lose the ridge. This is very open to attack if you lose the ridge and the forests here. But you have one more part, the very extreme far right of the map. And you might have just noticed something right there. See it? These guys. You have buildings in the trees here for some reason. I don't know if this was a partisan shed or what have you, but you do have a pretty sizable building complex here in the middle of the trees. So it is a bad idea to put any unit in that building if your opponent has flamethrowers. Reason being, as I think I've mentioned before, flamethrowers get a bonus against units that are in buildings. So it may seem like a good idea, oh, I can put my guy in a building here, which gives them cover and a good line of sight, which, true, it does. But if your opponent has a flamethrower, they'll burn you out of the building and do extra damage to you. I do use these buildings sometimes, but just be a little careful. Be aware of what your opponent's unit set is and when they're attacking the forest there. Now, what are some good lines of sight over here? Well, I really like this hill right here. As you can see, it completely commands that road. Putting an AT gun there, an IG around here somewhere to be able to help cover them from the town down there, this side of the woods. IG here, even better, helps them cover from the woods. Good spot right there, helps you command that point of the map. So when we zoom out a little bit, the lines of sight here are key. Lines of sight here are key for red, just so you can put the pressure on this part of the map for blue. Now, there are some good lines of sight here. Not too great in getting the road here, but you can help cover from the hill. Getting into the town here is always advantageous. Helps secure your flank. Don't let your blue opponent get in here. You have a yellow tree line to set up some defenses in if you lose, if you can get guys in here. And it really makes your opponent think, do I want to go out into the open there and clear it out? You can flank here if you're in a really bad spot. Same up here. But if you lose the forest here, and you lose the hill here, it allows them to maneuver through the forest here and threaten this flag. Now, you can't always mass a counterattack because it's really close to your spawn point, and you have some good ability to maneuver around and cover your flank here with this forest and the farms here and put machine guns and stuff. But just ask yourself this: do you want to do that? No, you don't. That sucks. You don't want to be having to counterattack through the open like that. It's going to take hundreds of points to do it. You'll need smoke, you'll need air support, you'll need mechanized units to get through the field quickly. You're going to need a lot of fire support. You're going to need good infantry, bad infantry to take losses, and just it gets out of control really quickly. So a lot of the time, you lose the trees there, it's going to be a shit show. But how do we take the forest? That's the key. Let's be an optimist here. How do we take the forest? Well, one thing I did today with Protozocker's VDV deck, which I was reviewing on stream and being able to play. If you want me to review your deck, come on by the Twitch stream and I can do that for you. He had PTRSs in his deck. I normally don't use AT rifles, but he told me, he's like, I just do it to snipe transports, which is how you should use anti-tank rifles. I stuck them here in the woods, stuck one out in the open here, sent 2 of them, I think, if I'm recalling correctly. And I killed, I think it was like 2 or 3 transports. Completely paid off for them. I think I killed a bunch of Panzer Grenadiers and Pioneers, which really helped me take the forest. And especially with a deck like VDV, if you lose this forest, you're in a bad spot. So it's a great line of sight here, getting an anti-tank gun, getting an IG, machine gun, AT gun, or AT rifle, sniper. You can really, really put the hurt down on that road right there. But on the flip side, you can also put the hurt down on the lines of sight here. Like we were talking about earlier, if they can see you from this line of sight here and like around here, you can also see them. So just keep that in mind. If they can see you, you can see them most of the time. So that's a good line of sight there. You always want to control the road. Coming up into the trees here, I usually play really defensive. I let them come into the yellow forest here, and I just start gunning them down with my DPs, my MG42s, 34s, or if I'm like a more close quarters deck, I'll sit back in the tree line here, get some AT set up when they try to bring cars around here, and just let them come into my napalm infantry, my Molotov cocktail infantry, sappers, what have you. Now, using this tree line here for anything other than kind of like negation, I usually don't put like a real infantry unit in here, because most of the time when people are attacking, they'll see this opening here as a threat, and they're not going to try to go across the opening here to get into the forest like this or walk through here, just because there's so much of an opening right here and from this road that you can snipe units from. So that's usually how you play this down here. I usually play defensively down here. Being aggressive's hard. You have less room to lose. Unlike red, which can fall back further into the forest, your forest is pretty thin. Now, same as goes for red, as we talked about, good line of sight here to cut off the road, vice versa, good line of sight here to cut off the road. So, typically how that works. Now, moving towards the middle a little bit, you have better lines of sight here that can help cut off the road here, road here, road here, road here. So, having an AT gun, IG machine gun in here helps cut off the road here and suppress whatever is in these buildings. So, play with the line of sight tool, find that good line of sight. Like this one's great. You can even cut off the yellow forest there. So, that's a great line of sight that I just found right now by playing around with it. Another key thing is when you take the forest here, you're able to maneuver on the hill. As you have better lines of sight here, because this part of the town really cuts off what you can do here, and it's sparsely populated with trees here. If you get some good support here, some recon, an IG, machine gun, AT, you can move some half-tracks or tanks through the trees here, set up here, and a lot of the time, the focus of the map on the front line will push it here, and you'll take this flag and threaten this flag, forcing your opponent to attack uphill through the open when you have the troops defending here, troops here, and then your left flank covered by your support. So that's a really good just little strategy to use there. Now, moving on to the town, we already talked about it a lot. The lines of sight here are great. You cut off the town here, here, here. This one's great if you have like a sniper rifle, AT rifle, here, 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 here. It's just great lines of sight all around here, just going through being able to cut this part of the town off. Even right here, a good spot for IGs and AT guns. I love putting my AT gun right here. You cut off the road, put an AT gun right here, cut off the road, IG gun here, machine gun here, cut off the town, get good fire support in, put tanks right here, roll through as quick as you can, while it's like just flank the town with them. You don't get bottlenecked. You can charge these trees here. Don't let them get AT guns set up. Now, it's a little quick. We'll slow down a little bit. So, number one goal, get good lines of sight in the town. This one right here is a great anchor point. You can get hit from a lot of angles, but it's got good lines of sight. So put your good units there that can take the beating and can dish out a lot of damage. Good line of sight here, very similar to this one, just not as good with the road. Same here, you want to have supporting fire coming from these buildings to help cut off this part of the town and to help cut off anything here a little further back, as you can see with the lines of sight from these buildings. In conjunction with that, you want to have some ATs, some IGs, machine guns, tanks, and these trees here to help cut off the road, give fire support here, stop them from putting anything in these trees right here. So, very similar to the last side, what's our goal? Cover our flanks, stop our opponent from maneuvering into the hill itself. Now, one more good line of sight here. It's not great because the church cuts it off, but you can cut off the road here with a support vehicle, AT gun. Same here, and help cover this yellow forest. One thing I like doing personally, just sticking a couple of Panzer IVs, or T-34s on this road, just to blast good HE damage into the buildings here, forcing them to fall back, which allows me more room to maneuver and scout out this part, and this part too. Now, holding this town is key. As we said on the red side, taking this town is key. So how do we do it? Well, usually what I do is I deploy units on the road here that I want to hold this town. They drive down this road. They have a shift order to move up into right here, and then to unload in the buildings subsequently right here. Now, taking it slow, unloading here, walking through the field, I typically don't like doing that. By the point they get walking through the field, you could have a tank here that could catch them out in the open. You could already have Ognamachiki and Flammenwerfers walking into the town here. So just come cut through here, unload right here. Now, a really good line of sight here to help cut this hill off is right about here. And back here, just try to, your goal is to minimize your openness to your flanks and stuff. So I just like kind of doing it right here, trying to stop anything from coming up on that road. Just play around with it. You'll find a good spot that you really suits your liking. And same here, put a machine gun, IG, AT, sniper, good spot here. Infantry to cover the flank of the town if they're trying to push. Not a ton of great lines of sight really for you on this end, just mainly because these tree lines do a really good job of cutting it off for you, and you can't really see into the valley, unlike here. There's the trees cutting off your ability to snipe their reinforcements. So holding this hill stops a direct line into the town or farm right here. And what your opponent will probably do is put guys in the trees right here to try to stop that. So one really great way of taking the farm here is rushing flamethrowers in, Molotov cocktail infantry in, just close quarter guys, dropping them in this building here, and then just building hopping up to the farm here. Because if you look, not much line of sight on this guy, especially right here, very little line of sight on this guy. Gets into here, even less line of sight from anywhere else. Can just burn out guys in these buildings, jump to here, more line of sight, but if you're here, you're already fighting over the town. Get a guy right here, lots of line of sight, but helps to flank. Good, just a good way to take the farm here. Don't really bother with these points here. You can't reach anything with close quarters infantry from these buildings. Now, with this tree line here, you have some good lines of sight right on the edge here, but you're gonna be stuck in the range of machine gun infantry, like just normal infantry with their MG42s, like your Panzer Grenadiers, will be able to hit you from these tree lines. But you also have a really great way of stopping this road right here, and you can also harass any tanks in this tree line, as we talked about earlier. And so just find a nice line of sight here. This is a good one here to cover both. It's really close to these trees here, but you can cut this road off, and help stop anything that's in here. So just to show you again, be a little slower with that. As you can see, that line of sight's great. Coming back, I almost forgot one. This line of sight in this tree line is awesome to put a tank in here just to cover this road. You can play it a little safe too, sit in the back, just let them come down the road, pop them that way. Don't get too overzealous. It's a good line of sight here. It's a lot of good lines of sight on the edge of this forest right here. And then even right here too, if you really want to get crazy with it, I don't really think it'll stop anything from this road right here, but you could try if you have a quick shooting 3-vet AT gun. It's possible, might do something. Now coming over here, you have a good few lines of sight. This one's really great for being defensive. You cover the road here and you help command it, and you're out of range of this hill. You're in range of this forest, but usually you'll be able to counter anything in this forest that's hitting you here. Now, this tree line also really helps because you're able to cut off any attack that might have broken through here. You can harass them while they're trying to take up positions here and here, forcing them to regroup, giving you time to counterattack. Now, you can also do it here, even more defensive, but a great one I like is this one because you're able to engage with whatever's on the hill here, be a little more aggressive. This one's better to help cover if you're trying to flank here in this tree line. So, just play with the line of sight tool. Just very similar idea. You want to command this hill. You want to get IGs and anti-tank guns on it to stop your opponent from reinforcing this road and this area here. Force them to unload back here, walk through the trees, and be very slow with their reinforcements. But as we talked about on the red side, taking this side of the map's key, because if you take this side of the map, it's going to be hard to reinforce it because your lines of reinforcements are going to be cut off if they take this tree line. They get defensive here and they're able to dig in, and just even if they're able to continuously contest it, you're going to be in a really bad spot. So how do we take this side of the map from the blue side? Well, being able to just unload right here immediately and just walk in here and be patient is really key, because a lot of the time from what I see, people on the red side do not push this side of the map. Everybody gets fixated right here in the middle or right here on this side of the map. But games are really won and lost by putting pressure on the side of the map. And what I mean by that is you could have a competent, good battle going on over here that's competitive, but if you send a flanking force to just really put pressure over here, a lot of the time people won't have anything or won't have enough to stop it by the time you've pushed them back to the farm here and have positions set up here. Now their counterattack will be strong because they'll have called in reinforcements and you'll have lost a lot of forces, but it's the same idea as I just said earlier. If you're continually contesting this, rather than them continually contesting this, they're going to be in a world of hurt, because what you're doing there is you're turning their biggest strength on this side of the map against them, their geography. If you can keep them from cutting you off on this hill here, and you can use the trees here to mask your movement and use this farm as a strong point, and these trees here as a strong point from the hill and the farm set here to help cut off this road, that's a great spot to be in. So use the terrain, get in really close, be really aggressive on this side of the map to help keep your opponent back. So that's Orsha East. I hate this map, but there are some good lines of sight on it. I've had some good games on it recently. I just mainly don't like the map because of this part right here and how susceptible you are to losing these flags right here on this side of the map. If you're on the red side of the map and you're anything but a Maverick or Vanguard, you're in for a world of hurt if you're going against another aggressive deck. So if it's up to you and you know you're playing this map, be aggressive on it. This is not the map to lose ground on, just because this middle hill is so big and there's so many lines of sight from it and subsequent flanking hills and just lines of sight that are crazy on this map. There's just so much open territory from where reinforcements come into. You can't afford to lose ground. So if I had to give you a couple of words of wisdom to win this map, don't give an inch, because if they take that inch, they're definitely going to take a mile. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Please come by the Twitch. I've been streaming nearly every day for way too many hours, and I'm reviewing viewers' decks. Soon we'll probably be doing some 1v1s with viewers, helping people learn the game, some good competitive games. We played some really good ones today. Ran into a bunch of Brigadier and Colonel ranked players. Played against Karma today. So if you want to see some high-level play with some newer players' decks against high-level players and see how it pits up against them, it's a great way to come in and do it. It's a great way to learn, and we usually have people coming in and out of the Discord, so you can hear a bunch of people from the community talk about the game, get different perspectives. I hope you guys enjoyed this part of the video. Please do feel free to drop any comments, suggestions, questions in the comment section below, and check the description. I'll have a link to my Discord, and please feel free to join. We'd love to have you in here, ask some questions, learn about the game. Thank you guys, stay safe, and take care.